If you would like a pattern, send me a self-addressed stamped envelope with the name of the pattern you would like. It is free. Alrighty, I don't know what I've done, but I was checking out my blocks, and I have them at 2 different sizes. And I'm like, what in the world did I do wrong? So, what I'm going to do is, before I continue, I'm going to make them all one size. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go by 11. So everything is going to go down. So what I want to do is line this one up so I can cut off of both sides. And I'm going to make it a plain 11. I don't know what I did, but we're going to blame it on somebody else, not me. Never done anything like that before in my life. I want to talk about holidays. I do not do holidays. I don't do it. Believe it or not, back in the 1800s, it was against the law to do Christmas. I know you probably don't believe me, but that's history. And I'm also going to tell you this. There was a black president before Washington. So, way before they come here. And the reason why they came here was because they were in jail and they wanted to get rid of the people. So, they put them on a ship they thought was going to sink. And they sent them off. So, you've been fed nothing but lies upon lies upon lies. And people need to really wake up and see the crap the government is doing. And get over it. And quit doing holidays. Holidays, you either serve the Creator God or you don't. And if you don't, then you are in subject to hellfire. Not my saying, His saying. So, I don't care nothing about any holidays. Christmas, if you was to take everything that Santa knows and everything that Jesus knows and the Creator God knows, they match up side by side. So actually, what are you doing? You're taking the Creator God out of it. And you're saying, you don't count anymore. I'm going to do this because I like it. Look, you're lying to the kids. You're lying to your children. Is that really what you want to do? you're taking the word on the government, which doesn't care about you at all. None at all. And I wish people would open their eyes and see exactly what they are doing to everyone. And I mean, we're the only ones that can stop it. We are actually the government, not them. But they want to make sure that you know that you are nothing. You're a peasant. Don't you feel like you're a peasant when you're around a damn politician? Hell, I would. I ain't been around no politician. So I don't know. I mean, I was around Jimmy Carter whenever I was really young. I was probably about 7 years old. And I was around him. And it was so funny. Mom and Dad had an antique shop. And he pulled up and all. And was in this limousine. And this woman was with him. And the woman had on a laced dress that showed everything. Back then, oh, it was unheard of to see something like that. But that's the way that it happened. And Dad was looking at the car. Mom was looking at the girl. And the other guys that was with us was looking at the other girl. But Dad was focused on the car. And he's like, wow, that is so pretty. And it's so funny. And Mom's like, really? He goes, yeah. And then he started talking about the car, not about the girl. Mom just stood there and laughed. It was so funny to hear them tell that story. But to me it was funny. Dad didn't care nothing about the girl. He wanted the car. But anyway, back to the holidays. I don't do any holidays. Don't do any holidays. Holidays to me is just another day. Now, we can get into the Creator God's holidays, and we can go by them, and one day I'm going to do a video on them, on what the holidays are, because that would be most and definitely interesting. I don't really know too much about them, to tell you the truth. I just live from day to day, and I make sure that I give the Creator God all the glory He should have. And okay, now I don't need two, I only need one. Come on, split up there. What? But anyway, see, some of these are, let's go over this a little bit. I want some to trim off the other side. I wish I'd have kept them all the same, but nah, I didn't. I don't like going on, these odd ones. I'd rather have them a whole, like 12 inches, 6 inches, 11 inches. But when I go off on it, and that's where I mess up. I guess my brain's not too good on it. Had too much fluoride when I was a kid. fluoride is bad for you. I watched a video the other day about Kellogg's. And the great-granddaughter of Kellogg's is really pissed that she's able to have free cereal for the rest of her life. But when she started reading into it and feeling bad and all about it, you can tell that they're different sizes. But she got really pissed and all. And you shouldn't eat it. So all these dyes that are in it and all, it's not good for you. From what I understand, they're wanting to start getting them to do the food right. So I hope they are. Y'all can talk. It's okay.
You what?
Y'all can talk.
Oh no, he's out playing guitar.
No, he left. But as far as holidays go, I don't do them. I wished I could find that paper that has Jesus and Santa Claus on it. And you put them side by side. There was this one TV program that was on years ago. I don't remember who said it. But he goes, why should I trust that there's a Jesus? Because when I growed up, I found out Santa Claus ain't real. So why should I believe there's a Jesus? You know? Tooth Fairy ain't real. You know, I never did do that with my youngins. Not the Tooth Fairy. I never did do that. But no, I did do Christmas until I learnt better. And by then it was too late. My kids were already grown up and they were doing Christmas and all. And then they taught their kids to do Christmas. But if I'd have taught my kids when they were younger, they wouldn't have done it. They wouldn't have done it. Man, look at that one. That one right there is a 12. Oh boy, I got something to chop up here. I got a lot to chop off here. See what I'm saying? Oh man, that right there, I chopped that one off. I should have chopped that one so much. Oh well, too late. We're going to go on with it anyway. Oh well. But I hope this quilt turns out pretty. What I'm doing is I'm trying to keep going, keeping the video going, and not just completely stopping. You know, I'm not doing them. Man, this right here's a 12, here's a 12, almost a 12. Man, I can't believe I did this. So I'm gonna have to do what I'm doing. I'm like, they are not gonna add up. So it shouldn't have never went with the half on it. It should have went with the whole, because a whole is a whole. And if you don't do a whole, you're gonna end up messing up. And that's exactly what I did. Look at how much I'm going to get off of this one. But by the time I get done, it's going to be fine. And they'll probably look better with these right here more open. But we'll find out when we get done. Oh, come on. Yeah. Yeah, now here's got a lot too. It'll be alright. We are not going to. Man, I got so many videos I want to put up. I hated that one about the kids' grandpa. That makes every grandpa look bad now. And I hope kids don't really watch that. Sometimes I think that they put out cartoons for adults, but kids watch them because they say, oh, look, it's a puppet. You know, it's okay, it's for kids, but then again, you find out that it is not for kids. That video just, like, really irked me off. How much I'm having to cut off of this one. Oh well, at least now they're all 11. And they will fit. They will all fit. Alrighty. Now, I have made mistakes on these. I need 20 blocks altogether. But I do not see no need in me throwing these away because I made a mistake. Do I have... Let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. And I got 4 of these. And I should have 4 of these. So that will give me them. And this right here will work too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and try to finish these up. So I just don't let them go to waste. And then I think I need 2 more. I think. So let's go through them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Alright. So now I only need 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I got 7, 8, 9, 10. I need 3 more. So, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. So if I have to come back in here and count them again, I'm going to put these together. Oh, it's not going to work. Look at that, I already missed one. Alright, let's see what we can do here to line them up. And then that way I can keep a count on them. I need 20 of them, I think, to make a twin size. But we're going to find out. If I need more, then I can go back and make more. But I think this right here will take care of the time that I have waiting for that other one to come in. So, I need 3 more blocks to make. Alright, we're going to get busy on that.
they decided to fly over the area and to take photographs to make new maps of the area. And there was a man who took a photograph, and the captain who looked at that photograph, his name was Darupanar. When he saw the photograph and he saw this massive ship-shaped object, he said, "Whoa, what is that?" And when the earthquake took place, it shook all the mud off the top of this formation. And for the first time, probably in 1,000 years, the top of this ship appeared. And it was very obvious it was a ship.
Now, today we have Rick Renner coming on the show, and Rick is a fascinating man who believes he and his team have found the location, the landing spot of Noah's Ark, and they have found the remnants. This is a fantastic conversation, and yes, we get into Nephilim and monsters as well. Let's get to Rick right now. All right, today we have Sir Rick Renner on the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, and I'm glad to be with you.
I'm glad you're here. So this is a delight for me, to be honest with you. I'm very excited about having you on the show. You were somebody who came across the desk a little while ago, and then I was delighted to find out that we have mutual friends. And I'll tell a quick story. I was speaking at an Armed Media Conference with Pastor Alan DiDio, and Joseph Z was there, and I had seen Joseph Z online. I'd never met him, and we got acquainted. And the second day of the conference, I go to walk out of the main room to go back to the green room to get some water, and Joseph is walking in, and I say hi to him, I shake his hand, and he is just over the top excited to talk to me. And he said, "Man, I've been going through your YouTube channel. Great stuff. I sent it to Rick Renner. He's checking it out." And I was just like, whoa, like I didn't expect that, but it was awesome to hear. And, so here we are a few months later, and you're here on the show with us. So thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad to be with you. Have you ever had Alan DiDio on the show?
Oh, a couple times. Yes.
His book, Summoning the Demon, is amazing.
Yes. I actually had him on, I would say sometime this year, talking about the book. So he actually was driving back from Nashville. So he actually swung through the studio, and we sat down at the table and had a good conversation. So yeah.
Well, I'm honored to be on your show. I've been skimming your program, and it's pretty amazing. It's called The Confessional, so I feel like I need to confess something.
I know. I could go into talking about how that came up. It was a truck driver idea. I was driving down the highway, and it just kind of came to me. And sometimes I regret it because people looking at the title don't always know exactly what the show's about. And so, but anyways, I'm glad you're here. And if you could, for the audience, because we were talking beforehand, and we have a very diverse audience. So guaranteed you're getting exposed to a new audience today. So if you could introduce people to who you are. I know you're in Moscow, but I feel like it'd be better if you told people who you are than myself.
Well, I'm a Bible teacher, and I've lived in Russia for 34 years. And this is my studio in Moscow. We're very, very connected to the Russian government. We love Russia. We love the Russian-speaking people. We own 2 networks that broadcast to the entire Russian-speaking world, and I'm a writer. I've written 58 books, and I have my own TV program, which is broadcast all over the United States and all over the world, and that's who I am. And you were asking me earlier about my book, about fallen angels, giants, monsters in the world before the flood. And Tony, people have kind of seen me as a centrist on what I teach and what I write. So when I decided to write this book, for me, it was really going out on a limb. I mean, this was really getting out there for me. And I was a little bit afraid to do it because a lot of people who talk about Noah's Ark and the Nephilim, they get into a lot of bizarre stuff. Yeah. And I didn't know if I really wanted to be affiliated with that. But as I really began to study about Noah's Ark and the events that were occurring before the flood and the Nephilim, I really felt like it was such an important subject that it needed to come center. We need to see what the Bible really teaches, what really happened in past history. And of course, the ruins of Noah's Ark really are laying in the lower mountains of Ararat. I've been there and I have seen it. Tony, I wish I could just pick you up and take you there. You would be amazed. I just got new photos today of brand new photography from every different angle of the Ark. It is just amazing.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I want to talk about Noah's Ark today because this is a site that I've been aware of for many years. And it was one of those sites that, you know, with Ron Wyatt being, I would say, probably the leading archaeologist on the site and being labeled as an amateur archaeologist, it brought a lot of scrutiny his way over the years. And it's unfortunate in the sense that he's no longer with us. And a lot of his work, I feel like, is starting to come around full circle, and we're able to actually see what he was talking about. And I feel like I don't know, the societal consciousness of what we're living in right now is much more ready to accept and look at the evidence he's brought forward. And that's kind of like what you're doing with just the first chapter of this book. You laid out so much information as to why this is actually the site of Noah's Ark. And this is not something that anybody who's listening who has no idea what we're talking about, Rick's going to go into it. But I want to preface with saying that this is not a site where it's theoretical and, you know, you go there and they say, oh, we think it landed here once upon a time, but, you know, because we have these writings. This is something that you go to a site and you literally are looking at an ancient petrified ship. And it's hard to get around the fact that this is a ship on a mountain. And so if you could, let's start from the beginning and migrate into this where, you know, what was the first time you became aware of this site and when did you start taking it serious?
Probably 20 years ago, I saw a video that was made by Ron Wyatt. And I didn't take it serious because he was an amateur archaeologist and wasn't trained in archaeology. So I didn't take it serious, Tony. But the more I began to dig into it, it's just like a hook got set in my heart that I had to more deeply study this subject. So Ron Wyatt died, but I made contact with the guy who really picked up his work. His name is Andrew Jones, and Andrew Jones has lived in eastern Turkey for more than 2 decades and has really dedicated his life to this site, which is called the Darupanar site. But let me tell you how it first showed up. So Noah's Ark was visited for thousands of years. In fact, in my book, there's a whole chapter called What Ancient Voices Wrote About the Ark. I mean, there's reams of information. They said it was located just below the Silk Road. Well, guess what? Where the Ark is located, just the top of the ridge above it is the Silk Road. So when people would travel the Silk Road, they would take a little detour, go down to the Ark and take pieces of it and make amulets. All that's recorded in history. But then it disappeared. And the reason it disappeared is because that entire side of the mountain is a mudslide. It is mud from the Ark. And in fact, when you go there, you got to be ready to ruin your shoes because you're going to ruin your shoes when you go to this site. It is just loaded with flood mud to this day. And so the mud covered the top of the Ark. Then in 1948, in the month of May, and that's really important, there was an earthquake. And when the earthquake took place, it shook all the mud off the top of this formation. And for the first time, probably in 1,000 years, the top of this ship appeared. And it was very obvious it was a ship. And the local Kurdish village, which has been there for thousands of years, they were the first to see it. But the reason that date is important is because May 1948 is also the month that Israel was reestablished as a nation. So like these two prophetic events took place at one time. Israel's reestablished in May 48. Noah's Ark reappears in 1948. I mean, these are really prophetic signs which Jesus gave us in Matthew chapter 24 as signs of the end of the age. So about 1958, I believe, they decided to fly over the area and to take photographs to make new maps of the area. So they were taking aerial photography, and there was a man who took a photograph, and the captain who looked at that photograph, his name was Darupanar. When he saw the photograph and he saw this massive ship-shaped object, he said, "Whoa, what is that?" Well, the Kurds knew it was there, but now the army has seen it. And there was no doubt it was the shape of a ship in the lower mountains of Ararat. And that also was an enigma because people have been looking for it on Mount Ararat. But the Bible never says it landed on Mount Ararat. And if it had landed on Mount Ararat, it would have been blown to bits because that is a stratovolcano. It would have never survived there. But the Bible says it came to rest in the mountains of Ararat, which is a huge, huge mountain range. And this is one of the mountains of Ararat. So Derupanar took his photograph and he sent it to Brandenburger, who was a professor at Ohio State University. And he is such a specialist with aerial photography. He was the man who identified the missile sites in the Cuban Missile Crisis. So this was #1 man in the world on aerial photography. And when he saw it, he said, I have no doubt in my mind at all, that is a ship in the mountains of Ararat. And that's what began all the research with Ron Wyatt. A photograph of it was published in Life magazine. Ron Wyatt saw it, and he went to the lower mountains of Ararat to see it with his own eyes and was convinced that it really was the ruins of Noah's Ark. So now let's go forward years and years and years. So I contact the man who's now is the #1 Ark researcher in the world. And I said, hey, do you really believe this is Noah's Ark? He said, well, it is definitely the ruins of a ship. I don't know another ship 300 cubits long that is in the mountains of Ararat. Do you know another ship that size besides Noah's Ark?
Negative.
And I said, well, how about if I come and I bring my whole family, my whole film crew? So I came. It's not far from Moscow. And we camped out there, and I've spent about 2 months there if you add all the days together. I have walked all over that site. I have measured that site. And Tony, I'm telling you, it really is the ruins of Noah's Ark. You can see the bow of the ship. You can see the stern of the ship. And when you stand at the bottom and look up the hill toward the bow of the ship, it is absolutely overwhelming to see the massive, massive size of this ship. It's 515 feet long. It is massive. And, no one knew that ancient men could build anything that big, but God gave to Noah the technology to do it. And that's why Noah was able to do it. But that's how all of this began.
I think that it's all fascinating. There are things with the site that even off the ship location that I find fascinating. With the actual site of the ship, there is something that I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure you've covered it or looked at it. In the middle of the ship, there seems to be a big boulder or a big rock. And I imagine there's probably detractors that people who are looking for reasons to say this is not a ship would say, how does a giant rock get into the ship at that point? Have you come across this issue at all?
It's a very big issue. And many people say, well, this is just a natural geological formation. That's why that rock is there. However, that argument is now finished because they've done all kinds of underground scans, ERT scans, ground penetrating radar, and they now know that that rock is not connected to this object. It has rolled into this object. And in fact, the new scans, I wish I had them to show you right now, it shows the complete hull of a ship. You can see it. It is a ship. And that big rock just rolled into that object. Now, some people say maybe it came down the hill with the object or rolled into the object. And that's why one side of it is a little bit destroyed. It's because this big rock somehow rolled into it. But that's what the rock is about. But because of the ground penetrating radar and the ERT scans, they now, without ever using a shovel, can see what is inside that object. There are rooms, there are compartments, there are 3 decks, just like we read in Genesis chapter 6. We know there was a central atrium, and the very newest analysis, which is just a few months old, from the #1 expert in the world who views these kinds of graphs, says that there is a central corridor right from the bow of the ship to the center of the ship that is still vacant. And if they could get to it, it is vacant enough that you could probably walk upright through that one part of the ship to this very day. But it is not a natural geological formation. Those kinds of angles and right angles and compartments, they don't show up in nature. And Tony, not only that, when you walk the side of the ship, particularly as you go from the bottom to the top on the right side, you can see the beams of the ship, the ribs of the ship. They're parallel, they are symmetrical. That does not happen in nature, but you can see it. It's about every 9 feet, there's another rib, and they are massive. And because they have drilled into those ribs, they know exactly how big they are. They're about 2 feet wide. You know, you'd have to have some pretty big ribs of a ship for a ship that size made out of wood.
Yeah.
And it's all verified now. It's really verified. Now, people don't want to give up the idea that it's on the peak of Mount Ararat because people have invested a lot of money searching for it there, and there have been a lot of fraudulent claims about something they found on the top of Mount Ararat. But here's the problem. The people who say that they've seen something on the top of Mount Ararat have never been able to return to the same location. They have never been able to verify what they saw, and that's because it's not there. It's fraudulent. It's laying on the lower mountain, a mountain called Mount Judy, and the word Judy means Doomsday Mountain. Isn't that amazing? And if you go to the top of that mountain, you can go to the place where the ark first landed. There's a huge dip in the ground. That's where the ark first landed. And the top of that mountain from ancient times is called the place of the landing. And over 4,000 years, because it's a mudslide, the ark came down the side of the hill and finally came to rest in its current location. And every spring, when the rains happen and the snow melts, all the mud begins to move, but that one object just sits right there. And it seems like that big rock that rolled into it is what's holding it there in that single position. Its shape only becomes more pronounced year after year after year. Everything else around it moves, and the ark just becomes more sticking out clearer and clearer all the time. I think it's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. And I remember seeing pictures, and I'm not sure if this picture was in your book or not. Again, your book is Fallen Angels, Giants, Monsters, and the World Before the Flood. First of all, I love the fact that you wrote a book and then provided pictures, because with this kind of stuff, it doesn't leave to imagination. Then you're not left trying to describe the picture. You're showing people, this is what I'm talking about. And in some pictures, it does show, whether it was in your book or not, I don't remember, but I remember seeing one picture where it was split down the middle of dating 1961, I believe, and then on the right side was the ship of 2019, and it shows how even what they saw in 1961 as a ship formation has since been revealed even more because of how everything has kind of flowed around it, but it hasn't changed. It hasn't moved with everything else.
And there's something else too, if I can just tell you. Sure. In the valley below are what are called drogue stones. Did you see that in the book?
Yes, you read my mind.
Okay, drogue stones look like giant anchors. These are so big, they're the size of a car. Well, a drogue stone was used to balance ships in bad weather, and they found them in the Mediterranean, they found them on the Nile. They were used all over in ancient ships in the ancient world. Well, the ark would have had these balancing stones bigger than any drogue stones in history. And Tony, they have found 26 of them. 26. And if you follow them, you come to understand that as the ark began to slow and the water began to go down, Noah and his boys began to cut those stones. And if you follow them like breadcrumbs, they lead you all the way to where the ark is right now. You can follow those stones and you can see how they sailed right up to that current location. And one other thing is the Epic of Gilgamesh. Maybe you've heard of the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yep.
Gilgamesh was a real ancient king, and Gilgamesh said in his epic that he went to see the builder of the ark, and he described the location. He said there was a saddlebacked mountain. He called it the place of the rising of the sun. And he said just below those mountain peaks was the first settlement where the builder of the ark settled with his family. Well, guess what? If you go to this Darupanar site, right above it is a saddlebacked mountain, just like described in the Epic of Gilgamesh. And just below it is the first settlement, which is described in Genesis chapter 10, verse 4. It's called Mesha. It's in the Bible, and it's right there. So it's likely that Noah and his sons took some of the pieces, the elements of the ark, to help construct the first houses where they lived and where people lived after the flood, and the ruins of it really are there. And in those same cliffs above the flood are petroglyphs. Are you ready for this? In those
Pretty.
Yeah.
Kato's drew that.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't it pretty? I like it. I like the
do
way.
too.
Yeah. That is so cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
I might just take a picture and send it to my mom. Then.
There you go.